This video is brought to you by Big Bad Toy Store. Make your purchases through my personal link in the description to help out the channel. Furthermore, if you want to support me more directly, you can check out my YouTube channel membership for fun emojis and sneak peeks, or my Patreon. Links in the description. So in terms of video games, Resident Evil is one of my absolute biggest passions, and I love the characters and I love the entire universe, and I've been a fan of it for probably like 20 years, with my first memory of the franchise going back even further when I watched my neighbor play it. And the game has always had a really special place in my heart, and these are some of my favorite characters of all time. So when I found these heads by son Weskong and printed by Daisho Creations on Etsy, I just had to jump at the opportunity, because Resident Evil is a franchise that has been a little bit inconsistent in terms of looks for their characters. They had a period between 2002 and up until Resident Evil Revelations was released, when they changed Jill's face model, where every character had a pretty consistent look. And to me, that's like the peak Resident Evil era. It's like a decade-long consistent period for an otherwise pretty inconsistent franchise. And yeah, this is my interpretation of Jill Valentine, most recently seen in the Resident Evil 3 remake. And in that game, she looks different because she has a different face model, but this is based on the most, to me at least, the most widespreadly known and best version of Jill Valentine, where she is modeled after model Julia Voth. And Julia Voth has some very striking features, like she has really piercing eyes and sharp features, and she is absolutely stunning. And Jill, ever since Resident Evil Remake, which was the first game that used that model, has always looked completely incredible. So yeah, this is, like I said, my interpretation of the character, because I couldn't really settle on a look. I went through several drafts of what I was going to do. Originally, I was just going to do the Resident Evil 3 look with the tube top and the black skirt and the boots, because I figured that would be the easiest. But I also want to pose her with Chris and Leon and, you know, everyone else going on missions and stuff. So I figured a more tactical approach would be better. So I kind of shifted between her STARS look and her more recent BSAA look. And I honestly, as iconic as the STARS look is, I really like the BSAA look she has in Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmare. So I based it on that. However, it's not a complete one-to-one recreation of that outfit. It's more heavily inspired by that outfit, because one, I'm not good enough to completely recreate it, and two, I kind of wanted to pay some homages to all the other designs. But I mean, we'll go over the entire figure. We can start with the head, for instance, just because that's what kind of started all of it. This is probably my best paint job I've ever done on a female character. I am really proud of it, because I am honestly terrified of painting female heads. So when you paint guys, you can kind of get away with, you know, a little bit of inconsistency and like some bumps and whatnot. But with female characters, they usually tend to look, for the lack of a better word, perfect. And this is the best female head I've ever painted. I actually ordered 2 heads because I figured if I ruined one head, I would have a backup. And I actually did ruin the original head, because I didn't realize that these bits here would just kind of snap off if I put too much pressure on it. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. So yeah, we can start with the costume. So the torso is very inspired by her BSAA look in Resident Evil 5. It's probably the most accurate thing to anything this character wears on this figure. So this is a Maria Hill MCU body, which I just repainted to Jill's iconic like light blue color scheme. And the arms here are from a Fortnite figure, where I modified these sleeves here. And the reason why I decided to go for completely different arms instead of the Maria Hill arms is because the Maria Hill arms are single jointed for starters, and they're also really like spindly, and you can't really, they're just a bit annoying to deal with in general. To break up all this light blue, I actually put a little decal in here to break it up. This actually serves 2 purposes. One, it breaks up all this blue, and 2, it actually protects a little bit whenever I push the arm closer to her sides here, because eventually the paint will probably chip, and the sticker is just there and protects the paint. I also really wanted a wrist to show to give it more of that BSAA look again. The gloves here are from G.I. Joe Classified Lady J. Originally, I really wanted like fingerless gloves, but fingerless gloves, as it turns out, are really, really rare to find. And I couldn't find any suitable fodder that also had this amazing wrist hinge that goes up and down instead of inwards and outwards. So I settled for simple black gloves. Moving down, these legs are from a Valaverse figure. So originally I was going to use the Valaverse body and just kind of put the Jill head on top, but the issue is that the Valaverse body is really, really big in comparison to the Marvel Legends type bodies. So it just kind of looked a bit off, and I didn't like it, so I opted for this smaller torso instead. I had to do some modification to the legs themselves to make the torso kind of flow into the legs. Like you can see here where like there's an indent here where I placed the torso, and then the belt here also hides the connection. And the reason why I picked this Eclipse body in general is because I really wanted these beige legs. I think in the game they're a little bit more of a cream color, but I figured this was close enough. The little pockets here, I don't really know where they're from, but I figured it would help with breaking up like the emptiness here. And besides that, she needs some place to store some, you know, her lockpicks and whatnot, so it works out for me. If we go to the back here, this strap here, this harness, is from a Marvel Legends Domino figure, and it took me like a solid 2 hours to find it because I had put it in my head box for some reason. This big pouch here on her lower back is from the NECA Chris Redfield, and I have the original figure here, and I figured because I'm going with a BSAA look, I wanted it to be a bit more uniform with Chris, so I just painted it black. And then I was a little bit worried about this bag being annoying when I was like sitting her down and stuff, so I opted to make it removable. I drilled a hole into the sculpt here, and then I put like a nail in here and hollowed out the inside, so I can just put it on and off at my own leisure. So moving down, we have this strap slash thigh armor slash holster combination. And the holster is just straight up the Valaverse holster. However, the holster itself is actually from the NECA Jill Valentine. So this is the original Jill Valentine figure by NECA, and it didn't really look anything like Julia Voth, but it had some parts that I wanted, like this holster here, for instance. So I simply cut it off, and then I drilled a hole into the belt and I pegged it in, and then I glued it, so nothing gets hindered in terms of articulation if I bend the leg, and it just works out perfectly. It also goes with our samurai edge, which is here, her custom handgun, and it just slots into the holster like so. And the lower body is the Valaverse body completely. I didn't do anything with it. Originally, I kind of wanted to change these boots with something more like akin to this, but I couldn't really find any fodder parts for it, so I scrapped that idea. I think these boots look pretty good anyway. So yeah, that's a pretty basic look at the figure. Also, Jill usually wears some type of hat, and in Resident Evil 5, she wears like a baseball cap, so I have this baseball cap right here from a Silent Bob figure that I just hollowed out completely, and then I can put it on like so. However, it's really, really big and it doesn't look quite right. It looks like a construction helmet rather than, you know, a baseball cap. So I could have gone the Lady J route and just have like this piece be swappable, but I didn't really want that. So instead of scrapping that idea completely, I decided to go for her iconic Stars beret. And she obviously has some kind of sentimental value to it because she kept it after everything in her apartment. And it's such an integral part of her classic RE1 look that I just thought it would be a really cool little accessory to have. Plus, I think she looks really good with it. So the way I made it is I took the head from this original Jill Valentine figure and I completely cut off the head itself, and then I hollowed out the inside of this beret, and then I covered her head in just like plastic foil, and then I put some hot glue in here, as you can see. And then it just slips on like so because it's kind of shaped to go into those grooves. And as you can see, it sits there on pretty snugly. And because hot glue has some give to it, it really doesn't scratch the paint at all. And besides that, I also reinforced the paint with some super glue just to, you know, protect these particular bits where the beret goes on. But I think the beret looks really, really good in scale here. There's a little Stars decal here. yeah, it came out really, really sharp. I'm really happy with how it turned out. In terms of accessories, I mean, I've gone over her gun already, and I guess this pouch is also like an accessory, and then the beret. But I also have this MP5 machine gun from a G.I. Joe Baroness figure, and she uses an MP5 in Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries, so I figured that would be fitting. I don't really know where to store it though. Like, I guess I could like on her back someplace, but I don't really know how these straps are supposed to work. And I also got this M202 incendiary launcher from McFarlane's Fortnite series, and this is what the iconic final rocket launcher you get in Resident Evil 1 looks like. And unfortunately, it's a little bit too big for her. Like, you can probably see it here for yourself. So I ordered the Lim Toys Resident Evil 2 rocket launcher, and it looks to be a lot better in scale. It's also a little bit too heavy for her to hold, unfortunately, but I guess maybe when I finish up Chris, he can have it, because it's going to be a little bit sturdier and he's bigger, so I think it's going to work out fine. But yeah, that's Jill. I have some other figures coming up, like I said, like a little sneak peek here. So if you enjoy Resident Evil, I think you're really, really going to enjoy these figures. The reason why I didn't film my progress here is because, like I said, these are some of my favorite characters of all time, and I wanted to be at the very top of my game when I made them. So I just opted to do them in complete solitude and really give it my all. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and enjoy these little extreme sets diorama pictures that are gonna follow, because I finally got these, and I've always really loved the idea of taking like cool pictures with my figures. So yeah, look forward to that. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in a bit.
The sooner we apprehend Spencer, the closer we'll be to finding Wesker. I can't help but feel I've read this somewhere before. Kinda takes you back, doesn't it?
To Raccoon City? Unfortunately, yeah. That's where all this started.
Hard to believe that was 8 years ago. I guess I am getting older.